Hi everyone, this is Professor E. So in this lecture, we are going to cover chapter 6 about functions. So as you can see, we are running out of time. The last day of this semester is July the 8th, which happens to be Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. So that's why we're going to have two meetings, one at least, one today. That's going to cover chapter 6. And then another one on Thursday. Let's go into cover chapter 7 and then talk about the final exam. We may add one more depending on your needs, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with chapter 6 about functions. So what is a function? A function, it's exactly what you learned, not exactly, but pretty much what you learned in math. Function is a type of relationship where you have input and output. Okay, there is a relationship between input and output. So it's very, very similar in computer science. So let's have an example to show how it works. So for example, let's say we are adding two numbers. Just make it simple. So if you are adding two numbers, so let's say we have two variables, number one and then number two. Let's give it a value. So this is 8. And then we have another variable, num2, it has 7. So if I want to calculate the total, so I need another variable, total, and then you can put num1 plus num2. And then I will print, okay? So I'm going to put here the total is, and then I'm going to put num1 or just total, okay? So far, nothing is unusual here. So we have two variables, num1, num2, and we add. Now, what about if we want to add another two numbers? Do we have to repeat the same code again? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code or statements, and I have to repeat them again. So that's where the function comes in. I don't have to repeat the same code if I have that code in a function. All what I need, just come up with the new values. Instead of 8 and 7, I'm going to use my probably 5 and 4 or 10 and 20. So that's what the function is. So how does the function work? Look, so I'm going to stuff like having this, I'm going to have it separate outside the main function. So I'm going to tell the program, okay, I'm going to create a function. And then int is whatever the result is. And I'm going to give it a name. Let's say add. I'm going to call it add. And then you open the parentheses. Every function comes with parentheses. Whether you have something inside or not, that's what makes it different than a normal variable. Because a normal variable, you just have the name and then semicolon, or you assign it a value. But for the function, you always have parentheses right after that name. So, and then you define what is your input. If you ask somebody, can you add two numbers for me? What's the first question they will ask you? Well, give me these two numbers. So we need to have these two numbers. We're just going to use some, we're going to two uh, parameters. So let's call it A and B. So this is the two numbers. See? And then you put the braces. This is valid for all functions. We're going to have a lot of examples that all follow the same thing. So what does int A and B? This in input inside the parentheses, you have the input, which means what you need to ask the user to provide you with. And then here at the beginning is whatever you are expecting as a result, which is the output. Then what data type? If I add two numbers, what do you think I'm going to get? I'm going to get another number, which is an integer. That's why I put int. But if I ask you, let's say another function, for example, that asks for to say welcome to a person, to a student. They say that's the first day of school. So I want to say welcome to someone. So I'm going to say here, or let's finish the add first, and then I will get to the other one. So here we have, I'm going to put here, so the total or the sum will be A plus B. and then you're gonna return sum. Okay. So you just have to be patient here. Once I go over the entire process, then it will make more sense to you. So this is the function. I am done with the function. So what are the components of the function? We have the name of the function, which is add, and then we have the parameters. The parameters are the inputs. I need two variables. I just call them A and B. But when I go to the main function, I will replace A with the number and B with the number. Just like in function in math. For example, you say a function is 2x plus 1. So what does 2x plus 1? What is x? Well, x is just a variable. It can take any value. The same thing right here. A and B can take any values. Okay? And then you replace x with the value. They will say evaluate this function by replacing x with number 5, for example. So that's exactly the same. This function, if I run the program, look, nothing will happen. Why? Because there is nothing in the main function. So if I go run the program, you're going to see absolutely nothing. It's like, look, nothing. Why? Because the function is there, but it's not going to take effect until I use it, until I call the function, until I invoke the function. How do we call the function? I'm going to tell you here. I'm going to say, for example, here, cout, and then I'm going to mention the name of the function add, and open the parentheses, replace A with the number 10, and then comma, replace B with the number 20. So now this is called calling a function. This is creating a function, create a function. So there are two things, create the function and then call the function. Okay, let me give you the example that I always give my students, and this probably will make more sense to you. If you have a problem, like in your house, maybe an AC problem, okay? So you have two options, two choices. If you know how to fix the AC problem, you can fix it by yourself. Very, very unlikely, because what about if the problem is complicated? Maybe it's going to take you more time, and it's not really worth it. It's the best choice is for you to pick up the phone and call the AC guy, and then he's going to come and fix it, and you just have to pay him. So that's basically here. So the guy, the AC guy, is just sitting there in his store waiting for you. He's not going to come by himself. Just like this function is not going to take effect until you call the function. The same thing, the AC guy is not going to come to your house until you pick up the phone and call him. So here, now it's going to take effect. So the program, when you run the program, what happened? The program does not go anywhere except to the main. That's the first thing. And it's going to say, okay, cout means print. Print what? Oh, I need to go to a function. Is there any function here called add? It's going to call searching. Oh, there is one right here. Okay, so the program is going to ask, okay, what do we need? We need two integers. Do we have two integers? Yes, I have 10. That's going to replace A. And 20, that's going to replace B. And then the answer has to be of type integer. Of course, when you add 10 and 20, you're going to get 30, which is an integer. So there is no violation of any rule. Now, if I run the program, you can see the number 30. See that? 30 right there. Now, the good thing about function, I can use it over and over again. So I can go right here, and then I can call it again with different numbers. Cout, and then I'm going to put add. Okay, let's say 50 and 40. Now, again, the program is going to search for the function. Oh, we have a function add. Now we're going to replace A with what? With 50 and B with 40. So we're going to go inside. The program is going to go inside. Okay, we have the variable called sum. It's going to add these two numbers, 40 plus 50, that's 90. Save it in sum and then return. So this function right here is going to return the number that will be printed. Okay, which means if I don't want to print it, I can save it. I can put here, for example, here, save it in a variable called x. I can do that. Okay, which means whatever the answer is, I don't want to print it. I just want to save it. Now I can print it after. So which means print x. Okay, so I'm going to put here print x. So what is x? X is 9. See that? So you have the choice. You can save it because everything that is returned you can save it as long as the variable you are saving matches with what? With this data type that you have in the front, because this is called the return data type. That means what is the output has to look like, what kind of data type, okay? Okay, we have another example. We can do the same thing for multiplication. We can do it also for, so let's say I want to repeat a number a couple of times, a few times, okay? So I'm going to put here, let's see, yeah, look at multiply, and the same thing, hence. Now, can I repeat A? Yes. Why? Because this A is a local variable, has nothing to do with this A. I mean, I can choose a different one if you want to, but if I choose A and B, these two A, B have nothing to do with this because this works only inside this function. The program does not recognize them outside the function where they were declared. So even if we put A, that's a different A. That means like a different area, different scope. So here I can do the same thing. I can say product A times B, return what? Product. See that? So if you have, this is called the return, because we have two types of function. So we are just learning the first one, the one that returns something of certain data type. Okay? So here I can do the same thing. I can put here a product. What do they call it? Oh, multiply. I call this multiply. So multiply, and then you open the parentheses again. I'm expecting two numbers. So I'm going to put here again, let's say 7 and 3. So again, the program is going to search for a function called multiply. If it does not find it, then it's going to return an error. It's going to throw an exception like an error. I'm going to say, okay, well, I don't know what you mean by multiply. I cannot find anything that has this name. So now it should work with no problem. Multiply, you're going to see 21 here. Okay? You can use it over and over again. Now, do we have to return only integer? No. I can return something else. I can, for example, put string, and I'm going to call it welcome. Okay? And then it takes a name. I'm going to call it name. So this function called welcome, it takes a name and return a welcoming statement. So I'm going to put here setup, and then I'm going to put what? Hello or welcome. See that? And then I'm going to use the name next to it. And then maybe end with exclamation mark. See? The same thing. Because when you put two strings next to each other, it becomes a string. So when you concatenate these three things, welcome is a string, and name is a string, and of course the exclamation mark is another string. So if you add them up, it's called concatenation, you get another. So now let's try it. Let's call this function. So I'm going to put setup, and I'm going to put welcome. Now the program is going to search. Do we have any function called welcome? Oh, it's right here. Okay, what's the first question? Does it take string as an input? Yes. That's, and I'm going to put right here. So I'm going to put here, let's say, Katie. Okay. Is Katie a string? Yes, it is surrounded by double quote. It is a string. So the first requirement is met. Now, does it return a string? Yes, welcome and name and exclamation mark. If you put them together, that's another string. But if I put integer, that would be an error. Okay, see, that's why it's underlined. So it is a string. Now let's run the program and see. Of course, let me make sure to start a new line after this. So when you run the program, you can say, okay, let me see, there's an error here. So let's see. Welcome must return a value. Oh, remember, you put C out. You are not supposed to put C out. You have to put return, just like the first ones. So that's what the program said. What is the return? So here should be fine. And then here I can just put plus, because we put that symbol only when you put it, when you display. So here we are returning, just put plus. Plus means put them together. The same thing right here. I don't have to have this. Okay, so that's good. So let me run the program and see. Welcome, Katie. See? Now, what about if somebody else showed up? I'm going to say the same thing. Okay, what about if it's David? Okay, so I'm going to put David. Welcome, David. So, welcome is something that is fixed. Okay, but David is the variable that keeps changing. So, I can use change name with anything I want. Okay, now let's say, for example, I want, yeah, let's say, for example, I want to, I'm going to call it first half. That means I'm going to take a string and get only one half. I'm going to put string name, but I want only the first half. Okay? Or, okay, not the first, let's say count. I want to count how many letters I have in that. So that's an integer. So I'm going to put return name, the name, right? Because that function length return how many letters we have. Okay, so let's say sentence set out. So if I put, I'm sorry, this not first half, so it's going to be num letters. That means how many letters in that string. So here, string name. Okay, return. Okay, so this is here. What num letters. And then I'm going to say here computer. That means how many letters in the computer. So of course, going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's going to give me 8. So I can run the program, it's going to give me 8. See that? Because we have 8. So you can make a function of anything. Remember we said there are two types of function. There is something that return. That's why you're going to see a data type here, integer. Like for example, let me show you that you can also have a return type character. Let's say the first letter. I want to know what's the first letter of any string I have. So let's say name. How do I get the first letter? I'm going to put return, get that name, and then use at. So at will give me access to the character at index 0. So the first letter has index 0. The second letter has index 1. So if I want to return the second letter, put just dot add 1, dot add 2, and so on. So add 0 means the first letter of whatever that name might be. Okay? So since we're talking about one letter, that's why it's return a character. So now let me try it and see. So I'm going to put here first letter. Then I'm going to put here, let's say C++. So what's the first letter? Of course, it's C. So here it's going to return the letter C right here. Yeah. What about if I have computer? It's going to return the lowercase. Now, what about if I want to return the last one? That means what is the last letter in computer? In this case, I'm going to create another function. I'm going to say the last letter. So as you can see, I'm using them over and over to show that this variable works only within that function it is declared. I can change the name if I want to, but these are two different. There's no confusion. The program is not going to get confused between this. It's like we have 3, 4 different classrooms, and then we have mic on every classroom. Is there any confusion? So when the instructor, when the instructor, for example, addresses Mike in his classroom, so the other mics, they're not going to respond. Why? Because it's a different scope. It's talking only about his classroom. So this is the same. I'm going to put here return. So how can I refer to the last one? So I'm going to put name at. How do you, I'm sorry, at. How do I say the last one? Well, I know how many characters I have, which is name dot length. But since it starts from 0, the last one will be -1. So if you look at the computer, C has index 0, right? O has index 1. M is 2, and then it keep going. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, since computer has 8 letters, so that's 8 minus 1. So always the last letter is always whatever the number of letters you have or characters minus 1. This will give me the last letter, which happens to be R. So if I run the program, I'm going to get R. Did I print it? Let's see here. Oh, because I didn't call the function. So I'm going to call the function, that's why it's not taking effect. So I'm going to put here the last letter, and then I'm going to say computer. So the last one will be R. And that's exactly what happened. Okay, so as you can see, these are examples of functions. Okay, now let me go back and then show you that the assignment I'm giving you, it's very similar to this. So if you go to the functions that I asked you to do, that's exactly the same thing. Look, the first one. So I said, write a program that calculates the perimeter and area of a rectangle. The program should prompt the user to enter the width and the length and call the following function to display. So that's exactly what we did here. So for example, for add, instead of like using these numbers, I can ask the user to give me the two numbers. So I can put, let me just put this here, so it doesn't interfere. Okay. So let's say I want to call this function add. So I need two numbers. So I'm going to put here. So let's say num1, num2. And I'm going to ask the user to enter this number. Enter the first number. Okay. And then, of course, you're going to use to CIN to save that number, num1. And then we're going to do the same thing for the second number. Enter the second number. So and then CIN match. Now I have the two numbers. Now it's time to call the function. So I'm going to say, for example, the total of these two numbers. Now I'm going to need the help of the function. So get the name of the function, which is add, and then replace A with num1, B with num2. The same thing as before, but instead of like just giving a random values, we're asking the user. So I'm going to put here add, that's the name of the function. Always start with the name of the function. And I'm going to replace A with num1, but don't put int, okay? Just replace, it's already declared here. You don't want to declare it again. And then num2. That's it. So you're going to do exactly the same thing in the two examples indexing. So it's going to ask you, enter the first number 10, enter the second number 20, and then once I hit the enter key, so the program will call the function that's going to add up these two and return the answer to be printed. That's it. So in your case, go back to this, it's the same thing, but you're going to use the perimeter and the area. So you're going to prompt the user to enter the length, the width. Of course, you already have this function on top, just like what we did with add. You do it exactly like this, okay? In your case, you're going to do, okay, instead of like first number, you're going to ask for the length. So you're going to put length. And then the second one, you're going to ask for the width. And then, assuming you already have a function called perimeter, okay? That takes what? So you need two, assuming like perimeter of a rectangle. So you need, length, some length, and then you can change it like that, and then the width, okay? So what is the perimeter? You're going to put always return because you are returning something that's going to be. So this is the output of the data type. And we put the formula 2 times length plus 2 times width. Done. So this is the function. And then you're going to call the function here. So what you're going to do, you're going to put here the perimeter of the rectangle is, and then you call the function. What is the function? Right here, perimeter. So you're going to put perimeter, of course, make sure you separate it with this. Perimeter, you always put parentheses. Now you're going to replace len with what? With the numbers you have here, whatever you call them. Okay? So here I call them num1. But usually you have to give them like a unique form name. Here I'm going to put, let's say, length, and then here width. Okay? So I need to use here whatever I have here. Don't use this. This is only inside the function. Len and width only within the function. So here I'm going to use it with length, comma, width. That's it. That's how you should do the same thing for area. Okay? So of course, I change that. So I'm going to change that one as well. And then that's it. That's how you do it. And then you run the program. It's going to ask you enter the length, 5, enter this, 8, done. Okay? So do the same thing for the area. So it should be the same thing, no problems. Okay? And then the area. Okay? We have another function called get area. And then you call the functions. I mean, you can use the same variable that you already got from the user, or you can have separate one. Okay? Now in program number 2, it's the same thing. So here we have the slope. What is the slope? Well, we're talking about the slope. We have to have 2 points, right? So this is x1, y1 is the coordinates of the first point. X2 and y2 are the coordinates of the second point. So this is like a math problem, geometry kind of problem. So that's why I give you the formula in case you forgot. I mean, you can still Google it. So you're going to return this. You already have y2, y1, x2, x1. Just return this. So you're going to put get slope, return y2 minus 1, use the parentheses, divide by x2 minus x1. You may have to put double because, integer over integer is integer, so you know how to put it. And then for the other one, distance, you're going to do the same thing. We learned about the math function. So this square root, you're going to use what? No, SQRT. And then for square, you're going to use pound. Of course, you need on top of your program, make sure you add CMath. Okay? And then here, I give you an example. Look, this is the function. That's exactly what we did a few minutes earlier. Okay? So, I showed you that you create the function first, and then in the main function, you ask the user, you prompt the user to enter whatever you need, and then you call the function. Exactly. Now, program assignment number 9. I think there is an explanation for this. I think probably toward the end of this. I think I have a video about this. But anyway, so this function basically does this. So if you put a function like I, whatever the variable is, so if it is 1, then it's going to be 1 over 2. If the I is 2, it's going to be 1 over 2 plus 2 over 2. So you can tell here that whatever the variable here, you're going to keep starting from 1 all the way to that whatever the variable is. Okay? So if it's 5, you're going to go 1 over 2 plus 2 over 3. So this is a looping, right? Plus 3 over 4 until you get to the number 5 over 6, 5 plus 1. Okay? And then you are going to use the loop from 1 to 20, keep calling this function. Okay? Just try your best, but it's not that difficult. Okay. Now, I didn't talk about the other type of function because we talked about the return. This is called the return. It returns something. Now, sometimes you don't have return. It's called void. Void, that means it does not return anything. It just performs some kind of task, and then it doesn't return. Let me show you an example. Let's say I need a function that returns a factors, like divisors of a number. Let's say we have a number, value. and I just want to print them. I don't want to return any particular value, but I want to print all the factors. So in this case, I'm going to use the loop, right? So I'm going to start from 1 all the way to value. And then I'm going to check if the number is divisible. So I'm going to put here if value, and then you have the percentage sign, which is modulus, over I. If it is 0, then definitely it is what? It is a factor or divisor. So I'm going to print it. So I'm going to put C out and display at I. And then maybe like a little space. So this function is going to return all the factors of that particular value. So let's call this function. So here, if I want to call this function, something I'm going to do here. So here, since I'm not returning, I'm just going to call the factor because it's already C out. It's already C out. I'm not going to put C out again because it has C out inside the function. So I'm just going to mention the name of the function. So factors. So let's say I want number 12. That means basically this will print all the factors of number 12, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I'm excluding the number itself because in my loop, I did not include value itself. So if I run the program here, it's going to show me 1, 2, 3. Okay, I have to run the first program. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. These are all factors. Now, what about if I have, let's say, 18? So we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. Yes, because all of these are factor 18. 9 times 2, 18. 6 times 3, 18. So all these are factors. So as you can see, this is what we call void factors. Okay. Let me give you another example. We have void. So let's say I want to create a function that takes two numbers. For example, it takes two numbers, or numbers in between. It takes two values. We're going to call it spots and print all the numbers in between. So I'm going to use the loop, but I'm not going to start from 1 or 0. I'm going to start from a number that is called starts. So that's my first number. Because I don't want to print all the numbers from 1. No, from whatever the start. Of course, the assumption here that start is less than end. And then I'm going to go all the way to end. So for example, if the start is 3 and the end is 9, so we're going to print all the numbers from 3 to 9 inclusive. So I'm going to put here, print it out, and I'm going to put I, maybe like a dash between. Okay, so this is the function. As you can see, there is no return because there is no return type. It says void. That means it does not return a particular value. It does something. It prints a bunch of values, but it does not return a particular. So it means I cannot save this function in a variable because there is no return type. So let me run it. Of course, here I need to skip a line. And I've called the function called all numbers in between. All numbers. Okay, the program is keeping track of this. So I'm going to put, let's say, 3 and 9. So it's going to print all the numbers from 3 to 9. 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is the two types of function. Either it's going to be a return that returns either an integer, return double, any of the data type that you are familiar with, or character, or sometimes Boolean. So let me give you an example of, so let's say, for example, I want to check if a number is even or odd. So that's true or false. I'm going to put is even. So we have a number. I'm going to call it val. So I will check if the number is divisible by 2, the remainder is 0. So if you divide by 2 and the remainder is 0, definitely that's even. So I'm going to put return true. See? Because whatever you are returning should match with the return. Else, because that's the only option you have. Either something is divisible by 2 or is not. Okay, there's no third option. Return false. Now, again, nothing will take effect until you just move this and to execute this program. Okay, so I'm going to skip a line, cout, and line, and then call the function. What's the name of the function again? Oh, is. So I'm going to put cout. Why? Because I'm returning, and it's not going to be printed until I put cout. I'm going to put here is even, and then what number did it say? 29. Is 20 an even number? Of course not. So it's going to say 0 or false. It's the same. So in C++, 0 and false, they mean the same thing. And 1 and 2 means this. Okay. So this is another example of a function. I have another function. Of course, there is a video here that talks about functions in detail. Please take time working with functions. So that's going to basically go over this. I'm going to mention one more thing before I end this video, which is sometimes we use what we call the, sometimes we have default arguments. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, right here, we have add A and B. That means we have to have two numbers. Now, sometimes, let's say here, I'm going to put 10. So what does equal 10 mean? So it means that if I don't have the second number, the program will replace it with number 10 because that's the default value. So which means right here, when I run the program and I put add, now if I have two numbers, that's not a problem. 5 and 8, there is no issue, right? So the program will add them up, that's 13, there is no issue. Okay, 13. Now what about if I don't have that number 8, it's only 5? So in this case, because I assigned a default value, which is 10, so the program will replace B with 10 because I don't have that number. So this is called default. So which is 5 plus 10 is 15, as you can see right here. And then I can have them for both, which means, what about if I have A is 20? Which means if I don't have any numbers at all, then the program will replace A and B with what? 20 and 10. The map gives you 30. If you run the program, you're going to get 30. So we call it default argument. One more thing. It's very common. I didn't mention that. Now, probably you noticed that I put all the functions on top. Now, what happens if I put it below the main function? Like, for example, let's say multiply. So I put this, and then I didn't put it on top, I put it below right here. Is it possible? Well, it is possible. The only problem is the program starts from the top. So when I call the function multiply, the program does not recognize it. Multiply, so I put 2 and 4. So the program may not. So if you run the program, see you get an error. That means the program did not recognize it. Okay, it's already there because the program did not get to this place yet. So there is something called prototype. That means you have to give a hint to the program, okay, that there is a function down there. Now you don't have to come up with the entire function, just the header. I'm going to put here multiply. Like I'm telling the program, listen, there is a function called multiply down there, you know, and this is the header of the function. It's called multiply. It returns an integer, and it takes two numbers Both of them are, you don't have to come up with the parameter, just the data type. And then you come, and then you end with semicolon. This is called prototype. Prototype. So basically, you just put the header, okay? It's just the signature at the top part, okay? So in this case, you can put the function below the main function here. But if you put it on top, you don't have to put the prototype. So we put the prototype only if we move the function below the main function. So the program does not recognize it unless you give like a hint or you put the prototype here. So for example, here, string welcome, I can do the same thing. I can put string welcome, and then just put string, done. So in this case, I can move this right here, move it to the bottom, no problem. Okay, so now there is no issue. Okay, but if the function is on top, you don't have to come up with the prototype. And you see, like, I don't have to put the variable. I just put the data type. That means I will need 2 integers. And here I need only 1 string, and you put semicolon. There's no braces. There's no code whatsoever. So the code you put it at the bottom if you decide to move it to the bottom of your program. Okay? Any questions about functions? Okay, so please make sure, let me go over the project number 2, just explain what you are supposed to be doing here, because this is also, because remember, we are very short here, we don't have enough time, so we need to cover 2 chapters, and I would say probably 10 days or something, okay? No, 8 days, because the last day is the 8th, which is Tuesday. So I know it's kind of a little bit challenging, but I'm trying to do as much as I can to help as much as I can. By the way, I removed 1 assignment. It was programming assignment 11. About 2 days away, I removed it. So that's why if you go to the last one, you may not even need to look at this video explanation of programming assignment, because it is about assignment number 11 that it was removed. So if you want to read, watch it, that's good, and have to learn. But the assignment associated with this video, it was removed, okay? Because I know it's like, we don't have too much time. So I try to help as much as I can. All right, so you should have no problem with this video quiz 6, program assignment 8 and 9. I just talked about it. Chapter quiz number 6, make sure you go over the chapter, the video, what function before you answer chapter quiz 6. Now for project 2, it's very similar to project 1. The only difference, you're going to use the loop because you're going to keep asking the question many times. As you can see right here, it's very similar. I know some students, they even use the loop in the first project, even though they were not supposed to, they didn't have to, but they did it anyway. So as you can see right here, we have options. So we can use switch statement, put the if statement, but this will be repeated many times. So the only difference between project 1 and project 2, in this one, we'll use the loop. So you're going to put this switch, and then you're going to keep asking, as long as it's not number 6 or quit. You're going to keep asking, ask the user, but also there's another difference. You need to have functions here. Okay, so that's why when you go to the video, it's going to expect at the project 2 here. So basically what you need to do, let me go right here. So in the video, in the project 2, you need to have the functions. Every option you have, you need to have a function for it. For example, let me give you just like 2 examples here. So let's say the first one, convert $1 to peso. Ask the user to input. So I'm going to create a function. Okay. So I'm going to put, you can use it as, you can put void, for example, and then you can put $2 pesos. So of course, you already have value in dollars. So I'm going to put double, and then I'm going to put VAT or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So this is the function you're going to put, and then you're going to ask, because here you're going to ask the user, okay, what is the exchange rate? So you're going to put, for example, here, And then also the value. You don't even have to have this one, but yeah. So either you're gonna prompt the user inside the function or in the main function. So I'm gonna put here, for example, please, or let's say, for example, here, let's put everything inside the function. So I'm gonna put here, please enter the value. Okay. So they're going to enter the value. Of course, you need to have this variable declare value and then wait for example. So they are please enter the value. So you're going to put CIN and then value. And then you're going to ask, okay, please enter the exchange rate. And then you're going to put CIN. Okay, now I got all the information. Then I'm going to put here C out is okay. The value in pesos is, and then you multiply whatever, like if you put the exchange rate as a decimal number, okay, or as a percentage, whatever you. So if it is as a percentage, so you're going to multiply divide by 100. If it is a decimal number, so you're going to put value multiplied by rate, or you divide by 100 if it is a percentage. Okay, so as you can see, this is the function right here. So in the main function, of course, you're going to have the switch statement, like the list of the options. Okay, so you're going to have the while loop, of course. So you're going to put the functions here. Let's say out, and then my first option, for example, convert dollar to pesos. And then option number 2, whatever the question is asking, convert Fahrenheit. So we did this before. So convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay. And then you go all the way to the end. Okay. All the way until you get to number 6, which is cookies. Okay. Now you can put this one as a function too. You can just copy this and put a function called menu if you want to. Let's call it menu. So this has all these options. Okay. So every time you call this function menu, it will show the options, because sometimes you want to ask many times. So you don't want to, keep typing this 6 many times. So just call the function menu. So that would be much easier. Okay. But I'm just showing in general here. So, okay. So once you put that, you're going to use the while. Okay. So you're going to put, for example, enter your choice. For example, please enter your choice. Now, look, this is one of different ways. I know some people may do it a totally different way. I'm just showing you, one of the ways you can do it. But just like in project 1, people came up with different answers. As long as you get the job done, shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to put CIN and then focus. And then, of course, here you're going to use the loop. As again, this is only one. So as long as the choice is different than 6. Okay. So if you use the function menu, you can put always menu on top, because it will show you the menu here. And then you're going to put the if statement or the switch statement. Okay. Switch, for example, if you put switch, and then you're going to put if switch choice. Okay. And then you're going to put case this, or if you put the if statement, that's fine, no problem. You're going to put if choice happens to be 1, then call the function. What is the function, the first one? Dollar to pesos. So that's going to trigger the function. So dollar to pesos. That's all what you need to do, because everything is inside the function. including the prompting. See, because once you call the function, all of this will take place. Enter the value, enter the exchange rate, and then it will give you the answer. And then you're going to continue. Else, of course, you're going to put break because because once you finish one, you can. But I don't think you have to use break here because you use it like in the switch statement, and then you put else. This is only if you decide to use. So if choice is number 2, so you're gonna call the function. Okay, let's say Celsius. Of course, assuming all of you have this Fahrenheit. Okay, and it has something similar to this. Okay, we have the Celsius value, a variable, and then Fahrenheit. Please enter the value in Celsius. You don't need the second one. And then because you already know the formula, and then you put Fahrenheit equals to whatever the formula, and then you print, and then you call it. So this is very, very simple. Okay. Of course, when they type number 6, maybe at the end, you're gonna put thank you so much for your thanks for using this program. Whatever. This is if you decide to go with this. So the program is very, very, of course, it's underlined here because I don't have this function. So I need to have it here. We're going to have another one more. Void, and then the same thing. Whatever we talked about, this should be okay. So I hope this makes it easy. So project number 2 should not be a problem. Very similar to project 1. Make sure you have all this. Like every choice has a function. $2 to pesos, Celsius to Fahrenheit. I know how many we have. And then here, count the letters in username, raise x to the power, whatever. So we have find the number if it's even or odd. So all of this should be functions. And then in the main function, all what you do is you call the functions, just like I showed you. If choice number 1, call the function. So everything that needs to be done should be inside the function. Okay, including the variables, prompting the user, and then you display the answer. Just like what we did with $2 to pesos, do it with the rest of the options. It cannot get easier than that. Okay. Any questions about this? All right. So I hope this you find this one useful and helpful. If you still have questions, please make sure you watch the videos first, and then if you still have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.